Pause. Okay. If you're wondering what happened, in case you notice something, I think my hand touched something over here on the keyboard, and I heard the word recording stopped. And I don't know much about computers, so I had to get somebody to assist me in that. So I hope, now I'm starting again now, wherever I left off. I hope I can catch it. And if you see any difficulty there, please let us know. And I'll hopefully alert John to it. And I hope that this is rectified. So I don't think you've missed much. Well, if you've got the first 1 hour of the lecture, that's okay. So I'm starting now about my office hours. Where we left off, I think, was John's role in the logistics area, and mine is about discussing the subject matter. So if that is the part that you heard last, then it's okay, because I'm going from there forward, and I hope that's what it is. I'm hoping and praying also, otherwise I'll have to repeat the entire lecture again, which I will do if necessary, but if I can avoid it, why go through all of that, okay? All right, so we talk about office hours. Again, continuing from where we left off about teaching assistant, we're talking about office hours, okay? When I was on campus teaching, the office hours were from 1 p.m. To 3 p.m. on Fridays, every Friday. That means during that time on Fridays, I would be in my office to answer any question. But now, that's not the case. I will not be in my office as I'll be lecturing online. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make sure that on Fridays between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., I'm available. There are 3 ways to contact me on Fridays, 3 to 5 p.m., either through email, or you can send me on the internet an email or a phone message, or I'm trying to read what other way you can contact me, is either phone or email, or you can, or if you, let me read it, do not, and if you're calling me on the phone, do not call after 6 p.m. because I'm fast asleep. So you can send me through email, phone. If you're calling me on the phone, then, and I'm not answering, leave a message with your telephone number on an answering machine, and I'll get back to you and put on your telephone number at the first instance, okay? I'm trying to again read it. You can use an email system, you can phone me. What else I'm trying to say? You can, I think those are the 2 ways to contact me, email or phone me. And it can be Fridays, I will make it a point to be there from 1 on, available on the phone from 1 to 3. Or you can call me at any time other than that, any time of the week, working days of the week. And maybe I will pick up the phone and answer it. Maybe I'll read the email and answer it. So, but that's you taking a chance. Okay, Fridays, I'll make it a point so you don't miss me. I hope that is clear. Or you can, as I said, and I'm repeating, I'm being a little extra careful now to make sure you're getting it on any time, because then it'll be up to me then when to read the email or answer your call, but you have that option, okay? Now talk about my phone number. You can call me at 512-329-0666, 512-329-0666, 512-329-0666. I'll give you the contact for John in just a minute when I look at the syllabus. Okay, we haven't even started looking at the syllabus yet, okay? Let's see. This is something very important, and you might like it more than anything else. Typically, the classes that you take, let's say if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, it's a class of 1 hour each day, that's 3 hours, or it's a Tuesday, Thursday class, it's 2.5 hours, 2 days, that's a 3-hour class. My class will not be 3 hours for the simple reason, because you take a 1-hour class, you're only there for 50 minutes, 50. The rest is moving from one room to the other room for the other class. The same way, there's 50 minutes times 3, that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, come to 150 minutes, that's 2.5 hours. So in line with that, my lectures rarely, if ever, go beyond 2.5 hours. So count on my lectures online, like we're doing now, between 2 and 2.5 hours, okay? Normally the lectures have back and forth, but this is what I'm lecturing practically non-stop. It's a world record to go non-stop without any break, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Whereas you're lucky that you have the opportunity to get up and walk away for half an hour, or split my lectures into 3 different timings. But I don't have that luxury, okay? You can see 1/3 now and 1/3 at night and 1/3 maybe the next morning. But that's up to you. So it's 2.5 hours. I'm again trying to catch up here. I'm talking about grade in a minute. Nobody's teaching. I do not know, as I said, no anybody else teaching this course. From the economic side of view, maybe there's some repeat here. Go up in a company need. Okay, I've done that. I will not be teaching this from Iocs point of view. Okay, I've covered all of this, okay? I'm careful not to touch anything on the keyboard lest I disturb the recording. I'll be worried about it. Let's turn to the syllabus. Okay. Now we're on the subject of the syllabus. An attachment you will see with your, with what is this? Attachment of the syllabus, you will see with this lecture or today's lecture. Okay, it might show up as a handout or, it's generally called handout or attachment, doesn't matter. So please have that in front of you, this syllabus, so I can talk to you while it's in front of you, can read it and yourself, okay? So I'm going to read it to you first, a little few points here. The syllabus, the course examines the international agreements and fiscal regimes. Fiscal is meaning taxes. How do government get money through taxes that are applied to petroleum exploration and production in countries around the globe? That's the intent, okay? And how do the relationship work between oil companies and host governments? And in the process, we're going to look at, as I've said before, some agreements around the certain parts of some agreements, not the whole agreement between Norway and IOC, I meaning international and meaning national. But if I find like in Norway, they have this, that's called indexation for inflation. That's a part I'll touch and say, this is in Norway, we have this indexation for inflation, okay? So that's when I talk about that, okay? For example, when I talk about ring fence, I'll only talk about ring fence in the context of Indonesia. What is ring fence? I'll use Indonesia as an example. Okay. Then I finally will talk about what strategies to use for negotiating agreements. Okay. Let's skip a little. It says relationship between oil companies and host governments. Skip that. Skip meaning let's go on. Types of petroleum exploration development agreements have already put on concession, production sharing on the board, and fiscal regimes applied to petroleum exploitation, meaning taxes. How do government collect revenue? I said that'll be part 3. And again, this is what I talked about earlier. The definitions, the concepts are part 1 of this course. What is a signature bonus? What's a work program? What's commercial discovery? What's ring fence? All these that you can read yourself. Read in the sense you don't have to write it, it's there. but I will explain that and take me maybe 2 lectures, okay? After that, international arbitration will be discussed briefly, how to settle disputes, because agreements, sometimes the government and the companies, after they've agreed to something, and it's a 25-year agreement, on year 3, they say, oh, no, that's not what I meant. And the other guy says, no, this is what I meant. So there is going to be a dispute. Okay. Now, how do we settle disputes? We're going to discuss that. And one way is through arbitration. They say, what in the world is arbitration? Okay, briefly, not in depth. And we'll talk about negotiating strategies. You can see, read yourself, because I skipped petroleum risk sharing and global oil assessment and investment criteria, transfer technology. Well, if necessary, we'll get into that. But let's move on. Petroleum agreements. It's right there. You can see yourself. How do you start? What are the strategies for negotiating agreements? Tactics to use during the negotiations, and how are governments around the world organized to deal with foreign oil companies, and that will be discussed. Okay, there will be a handout for that. And finally, as I said, constantly the agreements are changing or learning new things. And the question lastly is, what are the recent developments in agreements? Okay, what is something new that we find in agreements now? For example, I'll give an example. Previously in agreements, we never worried about environmental considerations. Nobody had much consideration to give to how are you, the company, going to clean the environment? Because that's becoming extremely important now. All agreements have a clause, an article talking about companies. Tell us, when you drill, what are you going to do with the drilling mud? How are you going to dispose it? So those are something new. How are you going to keep the environment clean? Previously, 40 years back, nobody bothered about it, but not now. Every time you turn, somebody say, hey, fellow, stop it. You're disturbing the environment. So that is new, and we will talk about that towards the end. The subject I know that is of most interest to you is the next one, is the of the course. That used to be my biggest concern. How is the professor going to grade? Is it going to be lenient? Is it going to be difficult? Okay, so let me be clear about that. There will be one exam and it will carry 100% of the grade. This did not happen in the past. It only started with its online teaching. Before that, it never happened. Before that, the grade was split into 2 parts. A small percentage, this is not now, don't worry about it now. Now it's 100% exam. Previously, it was only 80% exam and 20% was a term paper, or also called a research paper. Now you say, what in the world is a term paper or research paper if you haven't written one? Well, I was in the so-called industry in Houston. What I realized was the importance of communication to enhance, go up in the company. And what I found out was that the single most important thing, you have to have knowledge of your subject or the profession, was the ability to communicate. Sadly, that's accepted. I'm an engineer, so I'm not saying anything negative about engineering. Engineers, like I'm saying, I'll be like to talk about myself, are not the world's best in communication skills. They're good in equations and formula and all the good stuff. They're not the world's best in communicating. Who are a better communicator? Generally the attorneys. They have to make a case. Unless they know how to communicate, how can you defend a guy? They're better. So When I came into the industry, got many years, 3 decades or more back, from the industry to the university to teach, I added 2 courses and decided I will never teach a course and grade the students unless they show me they can communicate, because that to me is more important than anything else they'll learn here. You may know all the knowledge, you may have all the knowledge in the world. If you cannot communicate, so what do I know? What do you know? See, so therefore, knowledge has to be conveyed. That's communication. So remember that, please. So I realized that no student will ever graduate unless, from my class, and I'll grade them only 20%, unless they've written a term paper, also called a research paper. And I said, if you've never written one, don't worry about it. Come to my office and I've got a stack of 30 different types of paper on different topics, written before by students like you. Have a look at it and see if you can match this kind of performance. Here is a sample. You get an A if you're as good as these, because all these fellows here got an A, all 30. Therefore, I've used them as a sample for a good term paper. What I realized was that students were using the internet to write a paper. I said, no, not allowed. I'll give on your topic, you're going to put the important words on the Google or whatever it is, and look up references. In 4 hours, you got enough material to write 30 pages. That's not my intent. What I want you to do is the following, because I realized if you got a bachelor's degree, it's 4 years, master's 6 years. Then the 4 or 6 years, students have not been to the libraries and campus or any campus, wherever they go, because everything there is internet. The knowledge resides in the books and the libraries, but they've never been to one. Every single department on our campus, including petroleum engineering and mechanical, and every college of engineering and college of business, that means a collection of all the departments called colleges, they have their own library. We have a library. There's a Perry Castaneda library, the big library near the Gesture Center, Gesture Hall. God, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of books. But they don't know how to use it. They've never been to the library. They don't know PCL library. What the dickens is that? So I say you physically would go there and pick up a book and reference it in your paper, but only maybe 2 or 3 from the internet is okay, but not say all my references from enough. But we can't do that. We will just have to rely on the grading system. Okay. Towards the end, I'll just give you an idea. You might be curious of what kind of paper topics have been chosen or written on in the past. So you haven't said you're not going to write one, but you should know what transpired in the past. So turn to the last page of the syllabus. First, the last page, not the last, the one before the last. At the end, I'll talk about the topics here. There's an example there. That's the last page. Let's talk about the textbook. There is no textbook that I could specify, tell the students, go by that. Therefore, I had to do what? I wasn't satisfied with any textbook. So I would say, I copied some conference proceedings and maybe an article here and a chapter of a book, photocopied and had it put together as a book. I don't know, less than 100 pages. And for the last 30 years or 20 years, I've been giving it for photocopying that book that I prepared. It's called International Petroleum Concessions. You can read it yourself. By the copy center at the print shop inside the Texas Union Building. You know, there's a Texas Union Building on campus near the Guadalupe, okay, across the street into the campus area. You should know that. There's a print shop there. And the lady there is Melissa Lopez, and she's done it many times. She knows me well. And at the moment, say, I'm here for Dr. Malik's book. No, she knows what to do with it. You should give it to you, she'll ship it to you. It's inexpensive, very inexpensive. I don't know, very small amount of money. How to contact Melissa is through the internet, Miss Melissa Lopez at austin.utexas.edu, or you can write to her, you can telephone her, the number is given on the syllabus, and she knows what to do. If you want her to ship it to you, she'll ship it to you, and there are the 2-3 ways she can go. But if I were you, I'll just go and order it. Now, when you get the book, please don't expect yourself to be able to understand all of it. Only read the portions that I teach in the class. Only that part. It'll be like 10% of the total book, of 20%, I doubt 10, that you can really look at, that I'm teaching in the class, not the whole book, because that's a different level of education. You don't need that. So I made it really easy. My contact is here. Telephone number is 512-329-0666, 3 6s. My email is given here. And now you say, what about the TA fellow? John. It's a long name. His telephone number is given and his email is given, so you can contact him. Finally, the last page. Only to give you an idea what kind of topics were discussed in term papers in the past by the students and got A's in these topics. And there was a lot of material documents that were available that they could write a good term paper. There are like a list of 22 topics. You think I'm going to cover all of them? Not at all. I'll skip a few, talk about a few, and then we'll go home. Enough for today. Let's go to the example of number 2 here. NOCs is National Oil Companies, growing role in overseas exploration. That's a new development. National oil companies are national, that supposed to be doing the exploration and production in the country, but not anymore. National oil companies are going all over the world looking for oil and giving a tough competition to the international like Exxon and Texaco and Chevron and ConocoPhillips. So what is the role in the future? National, if they're going to continue to grow, what will happen to the Exxon? I don't know. We can discuss. This fellow discussed it in his paper. So that's a very interesting topic. Number 4, the future of the oil field service companies. The drilling company, the logging company, they're more like service company. Halliburton is a service company. Schlumberger is a service company. What do you see is the future role of these companies? Are they going to go into the area of production and exploration, which is the area that is the strength of the Exxon, the national, international oil companies? I don't know. That's a research paper. If the service companies move into Exxon's area of production, another competition for Exxon as an example. I don't know. That's called research. We'll have to find out. Somebody has to teach me that. Number 5, gas pipeline transportation agreements. Gas pipeline. There are only 2 ways to transport gas that I know of. That's natural gas. I'm not talking about gasoline. Either through LNG, liquefied natural gas, where you liquefy the gas, lower the temperature, and then put it in a tanker with big spherical round thing you might have seen pictures of, and move them across oceans. From Qatar to Japan, Indonesia to Korea, from Australia to pick a country, China. The other way is through what? Pipeline. So what kind of agreements must there be in the case of gas pipeline transporting gas? Interesting topic. All these are interesting topics. A comparative study is number 6 of the fiscal regimes of Britain and Norway. Fiscal is taxes. How do the government of Norway collect revenues? That's through taxes. What kind of tax? How did the government of Britain collect revenues? Maybe through taxes. But the third part I'll teach you, there are other ways too to collect revenues. So it's a comparative study, one versus the other country. Number 7, factors affecting the relationship between IOCs and NOCs. Yeah, what factors are there to establish that relationship between IOCs and NOCs? Number 11, fiscal incentives to attract foreign oil companies. Tax is one fiscal. Fiscal means taxes, basically. What are the, it's just like marketing yourself. The country has to market itself. You go to the mall and the fellow selling some stuff, and he's to the market, he's going to sell it to you. But what incentive does he use? Does he say, oh, you come on a Saturday, it's half price? I don't know. You come after 5 o'clock, it's half price. These are incentives that they use to sell your shoes. Same way, government use incentive through taxes. Okay, you come here, we'll lower the taxes for you. You come here, we won't charge you signature bonus. What are they? Right. Somebody has to investigate that. My favorite is, if you ask me, number 13, impact of cultural differences in petroleum negotiations. Sometimes we forget that. There are big, huge cultural differences between nations and societies across the world. Thank God there are so many. Otherwise, if we all had one culture around the world, it would be a very boring world. Some countries, they negotiate in certain ways. Otherwise, they won't name countries. There are some countries that are very punctual. They've got to start negotiating at 9 or 11 a.m. Not 12, not 10. There are some countries, well, we'll try to start between 9 and 10 a.m. And there's nothing wrong with one or the other, is it? And you say, well, no, we'll start at 9:15, and then you find out the fellow didn't show up till 10:15. Oh, mañana. Well, I don't know. I got late. The red light came along. Cultural differences. Now, if you ask me, I'm very particular about that timing. I would invite guests at 7:15 p.m. for dinner. If they're not there at 7:15, I'm going to have dinner by myself. If they come at 7:25, I say, sir, dinner is over. Go wash the dishes. My friends know that in Austin. They set the watches. Is there anything wrong with me? No. Is this a good habit? I don't know. In some cultures, when he said 7:15, we'll show up at 9:15. I said, well, that's 2 hours after went to sleep. What are the cultural differences that make a difference in negotiation? You go to a culture where they're very punctual, and you go there late, that's the end of that negotiation. Number 15. Resolution of international boundary conflicts. I can't imagine two countries that have borders, a common border, one and the other, conflict. Everywhere you go in the world, you find conflict between this country and that, this country and that, this country and that, on the border, across. This is my land, you don't come here, get out here, don't look for. They say, no, but this is my line of demarcation of the border. Constant. I could take a week just going over that list. So the question is, how do you resolve those between countries? Well, we're going to talk about that. I'll give you 3 different methods, other than shoot each other, or start a war. That would not be my preferred method, or I would call it preferred number 4 method. There are other ways to settle that dispute. Number 20, cross-border gas pipeline transit issues. Transit meaning crossing an area, transit. It can be cross borders, one country another, or it could be going through one person's ranch to the other person's ranch and transiting through a pipeline. Example, Russia is the biggest producer. Well, Russia is the most reserves of gas in the world of any country. They produce more gas than I can imagine anybody. Maybe America too. Where did the gas go? Through pipeline. Where to? Western Europe. to Germany, or Italy or France, all countries, they get it from Russia. And of course, they get it from Algeria, LNG also, and from Norway a little bit, from offshore, but mostly it's Russia. But Russian pipeline to Germany has to go through Ukraine. So that is the question. There are going to be problems, as we know. Ukraine and Russia are not on talking terms. So how can they let the gas go through, Russian gas to Germany? So gas is starting not flowing, may start flowing anytime. So Russia said, no, we can't go Ukraine to agree for a gas to go through their territory to Germany. So we will put a pipeline that will not go through Ukraine, will go around Ukraine. So we don't have to deal with Ukraine. So there are a lot of these transit issues. Excellent topic, especially very current these days. Finally, number 21, what are the merits and demerits, the good and bad about the different types of agreements? Okay, that gives an idea of what are the different types of term papers that have been written in the past. So I get some of my knowledge from this term paper that students have written. I'm not an expert in every area of the world. Certainly not. Anybody who thinks he is a fool. You just have to learn. The teachers and the students become my teachers. I have no problem with that. So having said that, I have no clue how many minutes or hours I've taken. I think maybe close to 2 hours. I have no clue. I don't keep track of my time here. As long as I'm sure I'm not over your anxiously awaited 2.5 hour limit. So let's put an end to this now. With my best wishes. I hope I'm not scared you guys from taking the course. I think we'll have a good time. And as I said, for you to enjoy listening, I have to enjoy teaching. How can you enjoy listening unless I enjoy doing what I'm doing? Okay, and I hope we will just have a good time. We'll work as a team and hope we benefit something that I teach. Thank you very much. See you next time. And this thing, I think this will be shipped to John, and it'll be on the way to you guys. Okay, goodbye.